Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Refounding Fathers. My name is Levi. I'm joined here with my co-host Ryan. We are known as the Refounding Fathers. We are also joined by a returning customer, Boogaloo Mike. Find him on Instagram. And introducing the matriarch of the fathers, the sleeper cell who never sleeps, the librarian of liberal culture, the newest member of the Refounding Fathers, at Stoic_Daddy.
I'm so glad you didn't show that to us before you read it, because that met expectations.
Hope you brought your books, because get ready to get schooled.
I guess we're not going to go into information on it unless we decide we're going to go into information on it, but we're very happy to have him here finally with us. This has been a long time coming, and this will be the first podcast with him on here. It's actually taking priority over the posting and editing of other podcasts that I have been too lazy and shitty of a human being to get to. So this will be put out before we do have I think we got 3 or 4 podcasts actually in the waiting queue.
Those are actually podcasts 16.
Probably closer to 16 at this point. But they'll once this gets posted, I plan on having those out all of them within the next week. So
Yeah, and we'll drop descriptions into when the time frame of those podcasts were. So when we first start talking about the coronavirus or whatever, people aren't going to be like, "This is really old news." So basically, today we're going to be working with the old and talking penny whistle. It's like a talking stick, but it's a penny whistle because, as we found out, having more than 3 people in here gets really annoying trying to come out with points. So we're going to pass around this stick, and whenever someone has a really good point, they have to directly combat the person speaking or back them up. They're going to raise their hand, and we're going to immediately prioritize that person speaking because knowing the level of drunkenness in this recording studio, we will probably forget it if it's not immediately focused on.
yeah, we have come to the conclusion this is the only way that works because booze and talking and or this many people, it gets hectic. So
It gets very hectic. So I'm going to start us off with a topic that we are very fucking pissed off about. Duncan Socrates Lemp.
Good name.
Yeah, for real. Beautiful name. So this man was a 21-year-old tech student, researching, doing all the cool technical stuff, getting good at computers, all the stuff that we don't understand and probably never will. Had a gorgeous girlfriend, good life, just a tech student, or just a student of the technology realm. He was very big on the Boogaloo memes. He was pretty vibrant in the boog culture, and there's a lot of friends out there that are connected to the Refounding Fathers that know of him. So this man started a chat, basically, on the internet that allowed people who were on the quote-unquote Boogaloo spectrum to communicate with each other directly. He was trying to design it to where that would be very secure, so where people could talk to each other without having government interference. Thanks, Patriot Act. We have to go this far to get around you guys hearing us. And to my understanding, he posted a Boogaloo meme that really pissed some people off because in Maryland, they are very anti-gun. You cannot have quote-unquote assault rifles. You can't own AR-15s or anything like that. So my understanding of what happened is that someone took notice of what Duncan posted. They investigated him, and they found out that he had semi-automatic rifles in his house. Now, the official police story is that he had a warrant, an active warrant out for his arrest, but the details of that fall very closely in line with what we would consider a red flag rape, because Duncan had no criminal record. Therefore, he was not prohibited from owning firearms. However, the police report does indicate that, yes, he was prohibited from having context, if you had a felony charge against you, that doesn't get dropped. Me and Ryan know from experience, yeah, some misdemeanors get dropped from your record. You do not have felonies dropped like they were nothing. So, if you are barred from owning firearms, period, you're going to have a criminal record. You're going to have felonious problems attached to your record. Which means that this was a raid, essentially, on this man due to the fact that he owned firearms that are illegal in the state of Maryland but are protected under the Second Amendment. So what happened on this raid, that we know of, there are still details out there, but at this point, even if we got more details, it would be very hard for the state of Maryland or that police department to justify their actions. The story right now coming from his lawyer, from Duncan's lawyer, and his girlfriend, that has not been corroborated by the police because there aren't Freedom of Information Act files against them, and they're unionized, so they protect their own. The story is that at 4:30 a.m., a squad of a specifically designed task force went after Duncan Lemp, posted up outside of his house, walked up to a window, and essentially mag dumped into him and his girlfriend while they were asleep in bed. His girlfriend, who of which was pregnant. Duncan is dead, rest in peace. His girlfriend managed to make it out alive, and the baby's doing well. But if this story is true, if the police conducted an illegal red flag raid on Duncan Lemp, provided no identification, and just walked up and blasted him through the window, which cops have been known to do before, based on that one lady in Texas
who got shot in the fucking head.
Police have done this before. Where do we stand?
So that really just comes down to like he said, there is no way they can justify this. There is no bit of new information that you can leak or find out that would be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They were sleeping in bed. So what it really comes down to is the police showed up and they said, okay, because they did, supposedly in the warrant it said that it was a firearms thing. They were there for some reason behind firearms. Okay, so I can kind of understand if you're doing anything that you believe is a criminal investigation and you believe the criminal is armed, yeah, be on edge. Like, I can understand a little bit of, like, stress in that. You might get shot at. But if you walk up to a window and there are sleeping people inside and there is no fucking noise or anything coming from it, and you just start shooting through the fucking window, that is a goddamn drive-by. You are no fucking better than the gangs you pretend to protect us from. That's exactly what that was. It was basically a drive-by fucking shooting, except they didn't drive by. They walked up and raided his life, not his fucking house.
What I want to know is, like, what evidence had been accumulated, if any at all, prior to this entire event, so, like, in cases where you've got, like, undercover police, right, in other, multifunction agencies working together to, like, take down a drug ring or some, some homeland terrorist type of stuff, there's usually, like, weeks or months or even years, right, of just a buildup of accumulating evidence, right, having to garner basically the police department's defense of their actions, right? Because in the court of law, a judge, you would think, would ask, okay, why did this level of intensity warrant this level of force, right? And the lawyers for the police department would show, well, Your Honor, here's our case, here's the insurmountable mountain of evidence, of criminal activities that were performed and surveillance and all this other stuff that was done to this individual group of people that warranted our immediate and lethal tactics to subdue that target that you're going after. Is there something out there that this guy was doing outside of just posting dank memes on the internet? Like, was that it? He was just, he was so dank, the FBI were like, we're gonna take this guy out. He's making my, meme page look, like chump change. You know what I mean? Like, was that what was going on? That's what I want to know. Like, because if there's nothing else outside of, him, doing that, that's the entire police force should be sued. I mean, to the point where they got to carry squirt guns for self-defense, because that's retarded.
I would go one step further. If it comes out as a red flag raid and they were attacking him just based on the fact that he owned firearms that are covered by the Second Amendment, those police officers should be, at the bare minimum, in prison for life, if not executed.
So actually, I started following Duncan Lemp's Instagram page, and unfortunately, I didn't know about it until this event happened. But going back to gathering evidence, so he was part of a threeper group in his local area. He's even posted pictures of them out doing stuff together. Threeper groups have been known to be specifically targeted by ATF, DEA, agencies like that, and they plant people in there. So I think that's probably where they probably got their evidence. But again, like we've stated, I doubt there's any evidence that states that or shows that he would need to be just immediately murked in his bed. Like, unless he was talking about how the second he sees a cop, he's gonna pull out a suicide vest or something or blow up his house. Like, there's no real. I can't even really think of any reason to go to that level of escalation unless he was planning to blow himself up. And I highly doubt any evidence brought to court will even show anything like that. I think what happened was he was part of a threeper group, and he showed off some toys to the wrong people, and they decided they were going to kill him for that.
Yeah, and a big thing that's happening right now is that this specific police department is trying to cover their asses, and they're doing what a lot of departments and especially government agencies are famous for. They are posting multiple stories in order to spread dissidence and misinformation. The newest one is that Duncan was a drug dealer and that he was a violent person. Well, a drug dealer that is hit with that level of intensity is usually not someone who's managed to escape the prison system for so long. It's very rare that that happens. I agree with Michael. Definitely, I highly doubt that there was anything other than firearms that were directly involved in this. And think about this. That police department is saying that he booby-trapped the house.
But did they even go in the house?
No, they didn't. I'm sure they went in after they blew his brains out all over his pregnant girlfriend.
And found all the Home Alone booby traps, right?
Oh yeah. They're saying that the house is booby-trapped. So let me go down this train of thought. So a reasonable person who's living in their parents' home with two active parents going about their lives and a girlfriend who lives with you who is pregnant, you are going to booby-trap your house to the point where a SWAT team feels like they are in danger for their life when they walk into that place? Bullshit. Because if a SWAT team would get fucked up by it, you bet your ass that no one in that house is going to make it out alive without being seriously injured.
And even if it was, let's humor them for a second, say maybe it was booby-trapped. Even if it was, the man obviously doesn't live in his house 24/7. He leaves at some point. There is multiple ways to arrest someone if the house is deemed too dangerous to go. And you could literally set up squad cars in his neighborhood and wait for him to pull out of his driveway and swarm him then. There's no, like I said, I don't see how you could ever justify just shooting an American citizen in their sleep, as opposed to finding some other way to arrest them.
Well, I've even seen videos on YouTube of police going to people's place of business to issue warrants. So it's there are so many opportunities throughout any individual's day of vulnerability, right? You're at work, you're in the daily grind. You're just, you're clock in, clock out mindset. You're not expecting police to just show up to your place of work, and they do it anyway. There were so many opportunities for the police to, reach out to him in a vulnerable situation and issue the warrant.
And my point on this would be on that topic is if you have spent we'll, like you said, we'll humor them. They have so much quote unquote insurmountable evidence that that kind of force was warranted, and you can't tell me they don't have the resources. You were able to plant people in a group to investigate this guy, and you don't have the resources to figure out a better way than walking up on a place that you know is booby-trapped?
Yeah.
Like, if you're believing anything that is being put out on this story that's coming from the police, then you're obviously, you're not piecing anything together. You're not looking at absolutely anything. That would be a ridiculous situation where we have so much money, we can plant people to investigate this guy, we had the fucking NSA after him, we've listened to all of his communications, but the only way we can think of possibly confronting him is having like a fucking local cop come in there and blow his fucking head off.
It actually sounds a lot like the Nazi death squads.
Sounds like a lot like the KGB.
And you gotta wonder too, because so, you could joke, hashtag not all cops and yada yada yada. But like, one of the first things that kind of sticks to me is that that cops are just people too, right? They're the ground pounders in these kind of things. It was just the sheriff's office. Was
as far
okay.
as we know, yeah.
Okay, so as far as we know, let's just go into the presumption that it was the sheriff's office, right? So, however they managed that operation, whether it was the local police agency that was keeping tabs on him or it was another agency, right? Well, the baton of responsibility is going to get passed down to the lowest denominator to go handle the dirty work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there must have been a build-up to disseminating that information, right? And as of right now, there's nothing about this cop, right? There's no news stories that this cop was a trigger-happy guy, or that he has a record of abuse of his authority and all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, I'm kind of seeing it like, this is just another dude, right? Another 9-to-5er kind of guy who works for a police force and he does his job. How long had this plan been rolling down the road and false information given to the police as well about how dangerous this guy was that made this police officer just mag dump into this guy's house? Like in my mind, I'm picturing that, something had been going on for weeks maybe of people in the police force who were going to be tasked out to that mission, getting told that this guy was the literal boogeyman, and that at the drop of a hat he was, going to just start, unleashing his, illegal 249 through the fucking panels in the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like these cops potentially may have even had been, indoctrinated by higher ups about the false level of danger they were in to do that. Because I couldn't imagine any just common Joe Blow just walking up to someone's house, no matter what your job was, to just do that, So in my head, I'm thinking, someone higher, until further information about the officer who did that, there must have been information from higher being disseminated, kind of poisoning the well with fear to warrant that guy to do that, just to walk up to a house and mag dump, Christ.
Yeah, to draw a metaphor for what Stoic Daddy's talking about. So imagine you're just a grunt, you're a ground pounder, you're an 11 Bravo infantryman. But then 7th group of Special Forces comes up to you and say, hey, we're going after Osama bin Laden tomorrow and your appointment. Osama bin Laden's awful. He flew planes into buildings, he's killed thousands of Americans, he's killed hundreds of American soldiers, you're gonna be pretty fucking hyped up. Oh yeah, they got suicide vests that blow ball bearings half a mile with enough force to disintegrate your entire atom structure. You're gonna be
all of your
scared.
dogs.
You're gonna be scared shitless. But that is a failure of leadership. Obviously, when the situation comes up and you come up across this guy who really looks like Osama bin Laden but isn't actually, and you still mag dump into him, that's still a problem, because that person who looks like Osama bin Laden just turned out to be another brown Muslim guy who was just trying to find his way to the nearest mosque for Ramadan. You still violated that person's rights, which is why I am a strong advocate of the, it's not even a real idea yet, I'm a strong advocate for the self-defense shootings and the police shootings to be lumped in the same category. Because if I get in a self-defense shooting and there's even a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't legitimate, I instantly get arrested. There are circumstances where, yeah, it was obviously a good shoot. You saw this guy who was in line in front of you pull a knife on that grocery store clerk, and it's all on film. We're in the South. There's a big chance that we're going to go free. But if there aren't eyewitnesses and there aren't cameras and there's even a shadow of a doubt of something being sketchy and there's a possibility of me just murdering a guy for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to go to jail, and I have to get a good lawyer. I think that the same thing should happen with police. I don't think they should be put on paid leave. I think if there is a shadow of a doubt of a shoot being illegitimate, that they should be treated the same as civilians are, because they are no better than us. They are actually lower than us. They are our servants. They are meant to protect us. They are the people that we pay. Constitutionally, police, law enforcement, federal agents, they are all lower than us, and I'm tired of them acting like they are above us. If you kill someone in a self-defense situation, whether you are part of law enforcement or you are a civilian, and it's not a clear shoot, which most of these shoots aren't, on either side of the table, you should instantly be arrested, you should go to the local jail, you should be processed as someone who just murdered someone, and you should have to fight it out in court.
This is actually something I've talked on a lot, but basically, so like here's a scenario I've come up with: is off-duty cop, right? He's just got off duty, and it's late at night. It's like 11 or 12 in the morning, middle of the night, and he's like, oh shit, I need to go to the grocery store and get some groceries because I'm out of whatever. And he goes and buys his rice, his chicken breast, whatever
Toilet
he
paper.
wants. Yeah.
Wait, they still have that?
Yeah, well anyways, he goes to the store, right? And every time he's walking through the store, he notices there's a guy that's wearing, he seems to be following him throughout the store. And so he's like, okay, man, it seems like every time I look behind me, that guy's somewhere nearby. And he's walking out to his car, and he sees that guy walking in the same direction as him. And he's like, that's not normal. And he gets to his car, and he turns around, and as soon as he turns around, he sees this guy walking right up to him, reaching into his pocket, starts pulling something out, and that cop draws his gun and guns the man down. Well, it turns out that guy had just parked next to the cop, was getting similar items at the store, and was just reaching into his jacket to get his keys. That cop, he's going to say, I feared for my life, and they're going to do a little investigation, might put him on administrative leave, and then they're going to sweep it under the rug saying the cop acted in self-defense. Now, put yourself in that position. Middle of the night, you're like, oh shit, I need to go get this food for tomorrow. And so you're walking through the store, same situation. You keep turning around, there's a guy following you. You keep seeing him, and you walk out to your car and you notice him behind you, and you turn around to confront him, and he reaches into his pocket to pull something out. You draw your gun and shoot him, and he was just reaching for his keys. Now you're going to fucking jail for murder at the best, manslaughter, and your life is fucking over. It's a horrible double standard, and the police are not held accountable like we are.
Yeah, and I can't tell you what's best. I can't tell you whether we should all be treated the way cops are treated, where we kind of, okay, we're gonna let you chill out for a while, and we're gonna do an investigation ourselves.
Paid leave.
Like, I don't mean paid leave, but like, you know, we're gonna let you chill out for a while, we're gonna do an investigation, and then if it's bad, that's when you go to jail. I can't tell you if the best option is you go to jail, you get processed, you make your bond, and then you fight it out in court. I can't tell you which one is the best, I can't tell you which one is right, but I can tell you the fact that we're not treated the fucking same is a problem.
And adding to that, along with the process of how police officers often get the benefit of the doubt on or off duty. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but I've got a friend who was in the police force, and he was involved in one or two shootings while on the job, and he's and they still have to go to court, and go through that whole process. But he told me that throughout the entire process, before going to the court appointments, that the lawyers, plural, coach the police officers drill them hours before they go, they even go into court. So you've got police forces, often at times unionized, right? They've got lawyers. They've got all the money in the world to be cushioned for this event. They get coached on what they need to say and what they will absolutely not say, and everything. So the entire system is trying to assist itself for its own benefit, right? They still have to go to court because it's a part of the legal process. They have to, right? But the system is backing them throughout, and then I'm sure that there's probably some underlying bias of judges in with dealing with cops, so there's that whole process. And now the bias issue, that's you can't really get around that. You just hope that the judge is as black and white as possible. He's there. You hope he's there for a reason. Because he's earned the right to be a judge for those kind of cases. But civilians don't get that. I've been to court a few times and have had to have lawyers for I wouldn't say the same level as murdering someone, right? But things that would have put me away for a little while, and I had no coaching at all. There was no coaching from the lawyer. I didn't even get to really talk to the lawyer while I was in court or before court. I came up, he said, "Hey, how you doing this morning? You ready to do this thing?" "Oh, yeah, okay, let's do it." And that was it. And it's not because these lawyers were assholes. They were great guys. Well, one of them was a family friend, even. So, there was no coaching. It was me standing in front of all these scary, indifferent faces, giving judgment to me. And I was, very, I was young, 18, 21, 23 years old type of deal, and no idea what I'm doing. I don't know, I don't know what courtroom etiquette is, or how I'm supposed to talk, or, am I going to say too much? Am I not going to say enough? I don't know what I'm doing. Cops, on the other hand, man, they get coached for days.
And not only that, I'm fairly certain, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain it's illegal to be coached on what to say in court. I know of a few cases where at least maybe not the defendant, but the witnesses, if the witness has any type of coaching, then the fucking case is thrown out and you fucking lost already, because that's illegal. And I'm pretty sure it's illegal for the defendant to be coached on what to say, because then you're not saying things exactly the way the court is asking them. And so the fact that cops are able to be coached, but if I went and got coached on a self-defense shooting and I got found out for that and got in trouble, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's just the state looking out for the state. They invested this much money in this person. They don't want to lose that money. And the more enforcers they have that are already trained, is one less they have to hire, indoctrinate, and train at that level of that guy because he fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, everyone is just a number on a screen, and some of them are in the enforcer class, some of them are in the subject class.
But on that note, I think it's probably good that we move on to the next topic here. So this is, I think we're going to go on to the one that we have allotted Stoic Daddy plenty of time here to speak on. Because he might have to leave before the podcast is over, so we would like to give him this time to speak on something here, and I will let you go into that.
Appreciate it. So the topic I wanted to cover briefly is so I'm going to preface it with this. There's a lot of big public faces out there, right? In the community of skepticism, and they're out there, fighting the good fight in the culture war, right? They've become pundits. They're news anchors now. They run their own gigs. And they've done well for themselves, right? And they've got, massive followings. They've got herds of people who, they're like, as pungent as never Trumpers and magatards, and all that stuff out there. And one of them in particular, I believe it was a Ben Shapiro, I think it was a couple of his debates or conversations, was about what America is, right? Like, what's the identity of America? And and I think many people, many good, hard-working, red-blooded Americans would say it's your heritage, right? There are many people in this country who their lineage runs deep through generations of living in America, right? They have pooled their blood into this country. They have turned the soil for this country. We're producers and builders of this nation. And Ben Shapiro, he's really big about the discussion of ideas, right? Which is great. Ideas are important. They need to be talked about. That's why we have the First Amendment, all right. But he believes that America is a country of ideas. And I'm not specifically trying to make like a call out here or nothing, because there's a whole camp of people who would agree with that, right? They go, yeah, we're a country full of ideas, because diversity or whatever, and and we need more people with diverse ideas and all this stuff, because America's always changing and yada yada, and that kind of kills me, because that's just not true. Those people who are here today as Americans, who have a lineage of fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers and so on and so forth, who lived in America, right? That's a part of their identity, right? That travels, right, throughout that lineage. And yes, people who live in America, unless you're like a Native American, right, are, let's say, classic Americans, right, European settlers, okay, are the ones who developed America. They're also the ones that carried ideas, new ideas and old world ideas, into the continent that created America, right? And so you could say, well, see, it is a country of ideas. It doesn't matter where you're from, right? But that would be to say, if you met a man, and let's just say, just for simplicity's sake, it was let's say like it was a black man, right? And you get to talking, and you want to know where he's from. Maybe he has an accent, or you notice he just does things differently or something, or whatever. You start talking about family, and you go, oh, well, where are you from? And he says, oh, I'm a Frenchman. That would kind of make me laugh a little bit, like on the inside, right? Because then I would probably have to like come back to him and say, no, like where are you from? Like, where's your line from, right? Like where were your ancestors from? And who knows? His ancestors might be 3, 4, 5 generations of living in France, right? And he'd be like, no, I'm a Frenchman, and I'd be like, and then I have to get retarded and go, no, what's your 23andMe say or something, right? That's what I would have to ask, right?
Yeah.
Because I think naturally there's an intrinsic inclination to understanding that all people around the world from geological locations naturally align their identity to their origin of ancestry, right? So that's where the plot twist comes in, because yes, I'm an American, I was born in America, I'm from America, but part of my family line were immigrants, like first generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other side, they have a lineage tracing back generations in America, so that's where the dichotomy is of that issue, and to say that America is a country of ideas, it totally, I think, throws away people's natural inclination to respecting their ancestry, right? I think most healthy, normal people, they have a respect for their ancestors and where they came from. You take pride in that, right? my father was this, his grandfather was that, my mom is this, my grandmother was that, and that's pride in where you came from, right? And geographically, certain groups of people also have certain unique ideas, which makes a culture, right? So the idea originates from geographically located groups of people, right? So if you go to Africa or you go to Asia, anywhere in the world, and you're gonna stick like, unless you're from there, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb, because they act differently, they talk differently, they think differently, they believe differently, right? So to say that, say with the, in the argument of, mass immigration, how many immigrants should we take into our country or something like that, right? No matter where you stand on that line, in Ben Shapiro or other people who believe that America is a country of ideas and not blood and soil, which, could say, bring them all in, or however many, it doesn't matter, because, they'll turn into Americans and then they'll have American ideas, right? Well, look at where immigrants come from, right? Let's say, our more heavily inundated group of people coming in are from South and Central America, right? They're very different from us. They vote differently, right? As a group, they all vote, similarly, along similar lines, right? They live different lifestyles. They have a history and a heritage and an ancestry that they take pride in, right? And they're going to continue that, right? You don't just breed that out of people. You can indoctrinate people, but then look at the left, right? You have a lot of people in the southern part of the United States saying, make America Mexico again, right? Those are Americans saying that, right? So where is their allegiance towards? Their ancestry, right?
Mhm.
So to say that America is just a country of ideas, well, one, you're a fucking idiot, because it's blood and soil, right?
Yeah.
Your heart swells up when you hear stories, when you learn or talk about your ancestors and things that they've done. My great something grandfather, he served in the Civil War, or I have a relative I can trace back who died in the Revolutionary War, things like that, right? That's a man who stopped his lineage, right? His bloodline ceased, and luckily had a couple kids to continue it, right? But his existence ceased for the sake of ideas that came from his people, right? Who had a common goal and a common motive. So thought I'd just throw that out there, a little brain teaser, just something to think about. Ideas are not just this fluid thing that anyone can have. Ideas are unique to the environment and the even to the genetics of certain people, how they think, and how that carries them, right? Just how, like, we say, we call Greece the infant's cradle of modern Western philosophy and logic, right? That was the starting point, which has helped drive the West to thinking the way it thinks, believing the way it believes, just like in China, right? Or in Asia, they had, the guy who came up with Taoism, the Buddha, right? Those were geographically unique people with unique ideas that carried their entire group into a thought process that's carried with them. You can't take that from a people, no matter how hard you try.
And it actually does them a disservice to say, oh yeah, everyone will come over here and then just be just like you and be American. It's like, you just took what made them unique individuals away from them.
Yeah.
Like, you're saying, oh yeah, you over there who is a unique individual, this guy from across the whole fucking world, he's gonna come over here and he's gonna be just like you. You just made two people ununique, unimportant fucking masses of ATP energized fucking meat. Like,
You're
who
just a
fucking
clump of
cares at that
cells.
point? All you did was take what is unique and interesting and individualized about these two separate entire entities and said, fuck those things. None of that's important.
Yeah.
Just eat, breathe, consume. Everyone will be just the same.
Absolutely, and so, you diminish other unique culture groups and people groups, and you also neglect your own and where yours came from, and that just does a disservice to everybody, because then, like, what you said, it's just you become kind of this mystery meat hodgepodge of just, automatons going through life. And then that's also why we have just so much, fractioning, if I think that's a word.
It is now.
It is now. I'm George Bush. I pulled a Bush.
You heard it here first from Stoic Dad.
Fractioning. So the country is fractioning. Someone out there's be like, that's not a real word. Based off of those identity lines that come from those ideas. Those ideas that originate from where your line comes from. It's just kind of like no matter what you think or want to not think about this, America is a Christian nation. It was built principally from Christian values, right? Some of the first people to come colonize this country, specifically like up in New England, they were Puritans, right? And a lot of those values that, fostered their community that became New England at that time were puritanical. You don't have to agree or disagree with Puritan ideas, right? But that has coalesced and transferred and evolved throughout generations of those people, how they think, how they act, how they believe, that's what made America. So if you import all kinds of people with their own lineage, there's even statistics out there that show by demographic groups of people from certain places in the world how long it takes in generations for them to assimilate, quote unquote, into the Americana. Just throwing that out there, Muslims took the longest. I'm going to butcher this. Don't take my word for it because I don't have the statistic pulled up right here. I'm pulling this from memory. It was like something like in the ballpark though of like 7+ generations. That's like well over 100 years. That's a long time, and that was like the average. You know what I mean? So you bring in a bunch of that into your country, you're gonna have a bad time. So anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points. Here's what I'll say. Multiculturalism is good to an extent. What we see as multiculturalism today is very toxic and it destroys nations. Not only we're witnessing the fall of Rome, we're witnessing the barbarians in Rome, which most people don't know this, but the barbarians, when they quote unquote invaded Rome, it wasn't originally a true invasion. The barbarians integrated themselves into Roman culture, but held on to their barbarian values. And that's a big factor into why Rome started to decline. Because these barbarians kept their values and they got into office, they voted. All of these things happened based on a minority of people's values that caused the fall of one of the most powerful empires in the world, which I don't agree with Roman values because I'm not a Roman, and they were
Roma Invictus.
They were fucked up in their own ways,
But when in Rome.
Do as the Goths do?
You have a responsibility not to impose your culture on other people, especially in America. Please, by all means, bring your religion. Bring your values. Yes, America is a Christian nation, but our forefathers, the founding fathers, also understood that imposing our values on other people led to tyranny within the government. So, you know what? If you don't want to be a Puritan, go for it. We don't care. Do not vote that way. Do not force your Puritan ideology into eventually putting non-Puritans into camps. You have a responsibility to your forefathers and to your founding fathers, the fathers of America. You have your responsibility to your fathers, which is, I will not let my father's memory die. I will not let his culture die. But your responsibility to the Founding Fathers is much harsher because they bled, screamed, died, lost children. Their sacrifice is much more important. Their ideas are much more lasting than your culture, as insensitive as it is. Their last gasping, dying breath on the battlefield in Massachusetts is more important than any ideology that you have twisted and bastardized that you carry now that your fathers once had. Their sacrifice is much more important because their ideas are better than any sort of tyranny or authoritarianism.
Other people, and it's happening on a nationwide scale.
Through force.
Yeah.
Through force.
But
Or
another little micro example y'all can look at is Texas right now. So Texas was like, for the longest time, Texas, and still is like, been the symbol of America. Like when people in other countries talk about America, they think Texas.
Yeah.
Well, Texas has very different views than the state of California. Well, California's got high taxes. They have horrible policies put in place. I mean, they're coming up with some stupid fucking laws. Like they just instigated legislation.
quote unquote, are able to just loot a store essentially and be able to survive. That's their line of thinking. That's not how it's going to turn out.
No, I mean I've seen video clips of people robbing the Mac makeup store. But what I'm trying to say here is so people from California have started actually moving en masse from California to Texas. And that's cool. They're like, hey, we're going to go to Texas because their taxes are low. Because more and more of them are moving and they're voting these stupid people into office, and now taxes are going up, things are getting more expensive, stupid laws are being put in place. It's happening on a global scale.
There's poop in the streets.
Not yet, thankfully.
The bubonic plague.
That's actually been found in California.
You mean a bubonic plague?
Oh.
But
Disgusting.
it's happening on a global and a national scale. Like, we're bringing all these people in from other countries saying, oh yeah, it's great to have their ideas. Well, these people are coming in. They're getting into office just like the barbarians did in Rome. And they're voting their ways in. And it is changing the country on a fundamental scale. It's great to have all these ideas, but don't try and change our ideas to fit the ideas from the shitty place you came from to begin with. Like, if you don't like socialist government, don't come to America because it's capitalist or free market and then vote in socialist leaders.
Yeah, it's like you came over here and used the benefits of our system to turn it into the bad place you just came from.
Yeah.
It's just a horribly counterproductive line of thinking.
But it reminds me of... Alright, go ahead.
Dude, we should become best friends.
Until the Immigration Act of 1965, I believe, immigration wasn't a huge problem. Basically how it worked is, yeah, there were tragedies across the world occasionally, like the great Irish influx during the potato famine, where we brought in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Irishmen who were starving. And that's where my bloodline comes from.
Drinking the potatoes and started eating them.
Essentially, at a dumbed down level, America had closed borders. They would let extremely successful people in based on vetting processes in times of non-crisis. So if you had a doctor who was really well known in Germany, who was very good at what they did, and there was a need for them in the US, we'd bring them in. We'd vet them, and then they would come into our society, they would adopt our ideas, and they would basically be a productive member of society. But when tragedies happen, like the Irish potato famine, we would essentially open the floodgates. You know what? You guys are going through some hard times, but you know, we did some fucked up shit, and we're like, oh yeah, you guys are having some hard times, and we're having some hard times down there in the South, so you get off that boat, you're deciding to go fight for the Union. I really like the ideology of letting a few people in, and then when there's something really bad that's going on in another country, we open the floodgates for a brief period of time, and then close them again, allowing not only our political climate to restabilize due to this new influx, but to also let the economy stabilize, etc., etc. It allowed time for, hey, we're not completely heartless, we do love our neighbor, but there is a limit as to how much we can take. So here's your time frame for how long you're going to be able to come in, if you guys want in, make it in this time frame, and the borders are gonna be closed again.
So, I saw this video. So the information was factual. It was a strangely done video where they kind of, it was a weird one. They used like jars full of marbles to explain numbers and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But the principle behind it was actually really good. He talked about like at the highest amount of people we've ever taken into this country. I can't remember the number, but I guarantee it was less than 5 million a year in immigration. Okay, so we have never taken in even, and I'm pretty sure it was way lower than that. It might have been 1 or 2 million, but it was definitely less than 5. So that's the number we use. We have never taken in even 5 million people a year into this country, and we did it to help them. Oh, this country's having a hard time, people are leaving because they're either oppressed or they're starving, the country's falling apart, whatever the fucking reason is. We're letting them in here for a better life. Okay, well, I understand that mentality. Okay, you want to bring people here so they can live the better life that they want to lead, right? That makes sense. I can get behind that, sure. Let them, try and get what they want out of life. However, there are 50 million people a year born into what is considered extreme poverty, which is, sorry for the random computer tone, which is considered earning less than $1.50 a day. We can't fix the fact that they're hungry and dying and starving because we can't let that many people in. We don't have the resources to sustain that. It's not, bringing them here is not an acceptable, viable option for fixing their fucking problems. It is just not going to work. So you have to, on your own accord, not with my goddamn fucking tax dollars, help them. You want to donate money to people? You want to give money to help people? Well, first off, don't hold a gun to my head and tell me I have to as well, because you can bet your fucking ass I'll hold one of yours afterwards. But secondly, stop bringing them here because we can't sustain 50 million fucking people a year moving here with no fucking skills, no ability to take care of themselves, and eventually turning this place into where they came from. We have to fix it where it is. And if you're a fucking patriot or have any respect for the ideals that you hold or the people who introduced you to those ideals, you would want to fix it in your own country. Help your own people, and we will voluntarily help you. Quit fucking making us.
Word. Nuts.
Yeah.
That's right on the money. And this is a big thing that, especially I'm sure in the future, as I, guest appear in some of these podcasts, is I'm a big advocate of existing within the bounds of nature in like natural law. That's a big thing that I'll harp on in certain points of conversation. And part of where I can tie that mindset into what you just said here is, the cyclical, growth and decline of societies, right? So let's take those places in the world that are poverty-stricken, war-torn, what have you, right? There's a natural process that all of that goes through, right? And in this very point in time, right, we may be witnessing a period in that cycle where on this planet there just happens to be, a astronomical number of people living in those desperate times, those desperate places, right? Well, taking the natural course, and this is going to sound cold, right? But the natural course is that, as a population grows, right, and if they were to grow at a certain set number that not just maintains a consistent population, but, grows that, and it's exponential, whereas food production usually grows in a linear sense, right? Obviously, your population to food production is going to be skewed, along with other factors. Well, what do you think happens, right? The food starts to run out, people become desperate, societies begin to change and adapt to a hard times, right? So depending on the evolved degree that society is currently in, it'll either come up with a solution, right? Which these countries often do. Some of these solutions is mass migrating, right? That's what, the Ostrogoths and the Visigoths were doing. They were running from a colder incoming climate from Eastern Europe and the horde of the Huns and other nomadic tribes that were hunting them out of their native homelands. And they moved out. Well, there's that, or there's, just slow population decline due to death, right? How do you mitigate population issues? Get rid of the population. I'm not saying you make the population go away on your own means. Natural course. If societies decide that they want to, right? If societies decide that they want to have a genocide, whatever. As long as it's not happening in our country, that's how I feel. If it's not happening in our country, it's really not a problem. Due to mass constant communication, right? You can reach a huge audience of people who are just, bleeding heart folks, that feel for these people outside of their country. You know what I mean? They're outside of the tribe. I don't it sucks. Life is hard. I'm blessed and, privileged, or whatever you want to call it, to exist in a country where we're not having that problem right now. But it's not my problem to tend to. Societies and areas and regions of the world that are having those issues will either come to a point where they force their own means to culling the issue, or natural selection takes its course, or just nature itself dictates what happens to the population, right? And then the population comes back down and the issue's resolved. Sometimes there's just certain things, I think, in the world that don't require our immediate hands-on. That's my take. But speaking of nature taking its course.
Yeah. So we had planned to do a huge coronavirus bit, but we're reaching about that time, if everyone's in consensus that we've reached the time.
So we can draw this one to an end.
So we'll do a we'll oh my god.
The spicy pneumonia.
We're gonna do a podcast on the coronavirus. I don't know if we've posted the original coronavirus theories, because that was a podcast a while back, but we've had a break in posting.
The Corona theorem.
We went over oh, this is probably what's gonna happen, and honestly,
so far we're not wrong.
We're not wrong, and I'm scared. But because we don't have time for that, and because this podcast is going to get prioritized, we'll probably do another one very shortly after this one and post it as quickly as possible about the coronavirus and all the absolute horseshit that contains that. We are going to go over the tack tip for the week, which is about the coronavirus, but not really
exclusive to
it's
it.
basically just about being
It's
prepared
a
overall.
common sense tip, if anything.
Yeah, so Mike's
So-
gonna head off.
Our tactical portion today is going to be about prepping supplies. You don't have to go crazy, and a lot of people, when they start prepping for things, they overdo it, and they just start thinking about things the wrong way. I know Stoic Daddy, he had a pretty good point when he's talking about guns and stuff. He's gonna, what'd you say? You're gonna get a 22 and a 5.56 because those are probably gonna be the last two things to run out.
Yep.
There's a fucking shitload of 22 and 5.56 ammo out there.
Don't be that FUD that buys that super gay ass unique gun because it was super cool and your great granddaddy used it in the Great War or something, and it shoots some obscure.
There's
ammunition.
not a lot of 303 Brit out there. Stop buying Enfields.
Stop buying Enfields.
But more than just ammo, so tactical tip is usually something gun related, but it doesn't have to be. Now ammo I would include in my prepping supplies, and I have, but food. So a lot of people, they go to the store right now, the fucking stores are bought out of rice, beans, and toilet paper. Rice and beans, okay. Toilet paper, don't fucking kid yourself. Like,
Well, it's not actually just that, because we just went.
yeah.
And it was also
Bread,
milk,
yeah.
bread, eggs.
So you can make your
So-
bread cereal,
No, it's your
Milk and
milk
bread
sandwiches.
Milk and bread sandwich.
So I'm gonna give you all a little a little science lesson, all right?
Fuck outta
So
here.
you buy a bag of bread from the store and you open it and you make yourself a pastrami sandwich, right? Well, then you seal that bag up. Well, that bag has been opened and it's been exposed to the air. There are mold spores and fucking everywhere. You breathe in millions of mold spores a day, you don't even fucking realize it. So that bread, you let it sit for a week without touching it. You look at it, it's gonna have little green and black spots all over it. Probably don't want to eat it no more. Milk. How many times have you poured yourself a nice, crispy, cold glass of milk, taken a big old swig, and then immediately puked it up into the sink because it had gone bad a day before?
Me and Ryan poured
These things.
poured a gallon of bagged milk on a fire pit, pissed on it, and set it on fire to figure out what it would smell like.
What the fuck is wrong with y'all? I do it too.
Science.
What I'm saying is, like, prep for, like, realistically. So, ammo, good prepping item. It doesn't really expire.
If you don't use it, you can trade it.
You can always eat it. It's fine.
I hear saltpeter's good for you.
Yes. Now, food. Good thing to store. Dried beans, dried rice. Now, you gotta store it properly, but it's a good thing to store. Canned goods. Get some canned goods. Like a lot. We went to the store. Rice and beans were bought out. Bread was bought out. Milk was gone. There's fucking shitloads of canned goods on the store shelves.
Hormel's chili, dude.
Man,
It was
if you ain't-
everywhere.
If you don't get down with some Hormel's chili, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you.
Yo, I'm cool with having to survive for months on SpaghettiOs.
Yeah. So, like, what I'm trying to say here is get things that are going to last you. Water. People are buying up bottled water like there's no tomorrow. Like, yeah, it's good to have bottled water, but you can... Every house has some sort of a container in it. Store water yourself. You can go to Walmart and you can buy... Well, maybe not now, but in the past, you can go there and it's like $4. You get one of those 5-gallon empty jugs. You can either fill it there, or you just bring it home and fill it with the faucet, and then cap it and put it away, and it'll stay good. Your water heater, that stores 40, 50 gallons of water if it's a normal size house. Smaller house might be a 30 to 20 gallon water heater. That stuff, not only is it separate from the sewage system, it's also got a spigot. You can look at your water heater. It usually has a spigot or a drain of some kind at the bottom, so you can empty that out. Situations start getting dire, you can use water in your toilet tank. I mean, that sounds really fucking gross, right? Like, oh gosh, toilet water. You don't shit in the tank, do you? Like, I hope you don't.
Fucking Mongol.
The water goes down out of the tank
And
and into the part you shit in.
And
So.
there's this cool thing that people can do. Like, a lot of people don't realize that there's this fun fact I found out about water purification is if you boil it. You can actually purify water by boiling it. Believe it
Are
or
you
not,
kidding me?
try it at home.
I'm gonna have to fact check you on that one, but
All this bleach, y'all are doing the fucking wrong thing. The bleach, you're like swiping down everything else. Don't fucking do that. I mean, clean your hands with hand sanitizer before you come in the door, and then wash your hands. Your house will probably stay pretty damn clean. Use the bleach for water purification. A couple drops of bleach in a gallon of water will purify it. I think it's like 1 or 2 drops per gallon.
Now,
And,
make
don't-
sure you have the right kind of bleach, because if you have the kind that's like made to clean clothes,
Yeah.
you're trying the wrong
And
thing.
don't be like the vodka lady on the Food Network where she's like, and 2 shots of vodka and dumps the whole fucking bottle in there. When I say a fucking drop, I'm like a 2-millimeter raindrop drop.
Right.
Bleach can actually be poisonous, so don't just fucking drink that and think you're good.
She'll chap your lip.
Like, there's just simple things you can do, and with supplies being bought out right now, know what supplies you can get that no one else is buying. Hand sanitizer's flying off the shelves, but I'm seeing like hydrogen peroxide and vinegar still there. That's what most hospitals actually use to sanitize, is like hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. They don't even use bleach, because hydrogen peroxide and vinegar mixed properly kills more bacteria and germs. There's a lot of things you can do to keep yourself clean, stock up on stuff that's sanitation, and stock up on food that most people don't do. They go to the store and they panic buy things because they see other people panic buying them, and they don't know what they're buying.
So I've got one thing to say. I'm gonna try not to go down any rabbit holes with this. You're too late.
If you're buying now,
If the bad thing, if something bad is happening and that's what's causing you to buy something, to prep, quote unquote, you're not prepping. It's too fucking late for prep.
You're reacting.
You're reacting.
Mhm.
Everything is
Proactive.
already off the shelves. The toilet paper is gone. Like,
I work at a gun store. First fucking thing we sold out of was 9mm hollow points.
quick.
And that was within a couple days. And then the next thing we sold out of was 9mm ball ammunition. We started out with 13,000, not 1,300, 13,000 fucking rounds of 9mm. And within before 3 fucking days were even over, it was like 2.5 days, we had sold 13,000 rounds. If you're reacting, you're too late. You got to be proactive. Like, I had a guy call me to ask if I had 9mm hollow points, and I was like, nah, man, I sold all my 9mm hollow points. He's like, well, I really need to buy some. And God knows it took everything to say, or to not say, well, you should have bought it earlier. Because if you wait for the bad thing to happen to buy the stuff, you're fucked.
Yeah, like, if you're of a prepper mindset and you like luxury, you should have had toilet paper prepped. You should have had whatever your...
Well, I use poison ivy leaves.
Hell yeah. And then you burn it afterwards and inhale the fumes.
It's like peyote.
Except it's
DMT?
horrible.
Listen, toilet paper is a luxury item. I will go out and say that toilet paper is the last thing that a first world country has before it turns into a second or third world country. When we run out of toilet paper, we are wiping our asses or spraying our asses with something else.
When Amazon runs out of toilet paper, you've got a problem.
So, first off, have a good supply of whatever you deem as necessity or luxury. Toilet paper I consider a luxury item. A very good luxury item, but it is not essential to my survival. So, if it's important but not essential to survival, you should have a decent stock of it. But you should also have alternatives to it. Like a, what do they call in Europe?
A duvet.
Bidet.
Oh, that's it.
Bidet.
Not duvet.
Bidet. A duvet.
It's
Bye.
spelled stupid.
Sorry, that was my
fucking
bad.
Weird ass
My,
Europeans.
Sorry, my autism sparked for a second.
You should have a duvet, or a squirt bottle, or baby wipes, or Kleenexes, or literally a fucking rag that you just wash. It's not hard. Toilet paper is not important to our survival.
Babies used to have cloth diapers that they would wash.
Yeah,
Like, come on.
like it's not hard. Just throw in some bleach water, let it sit, pull it out of the weird floating turd water, and then you're good to go. Everyone's focusing on the wrong thing, and they always will until people become more prepper mindset oriented. Because preppers are the bad guys. Preppers are crazy. People who have more than 3 days worth of food are out of their fucking minds for some reason. No. Suburbia, this mindset where we can go to the store anytime we want in our nice clothes, in our nice cars, in our decent homes, with our okay food supply, this is not the average on the span of the human timeline. This is the exception to the rule. What is the rule is genocide, misery, torture, and torment. Those are the things that automatically come along with human nature. And if you're not prepared for those, living in the anomaly of the human time span, then where you're going to be when those attributes of the human condition hit you at the wrong time. I'm fucking tired of preppers getting shit on. Because every time they're always like, people who aren't preppers are like, oh, well, I'm going to come to your house. Fuck no. If you come to my house to use my supplies, I'm going to shoot you because that is thievery.
And eat you.
Yeah,
And
like,
we're our food source.
or I'm either going to turn you down or turn you away, or I'm going to shoot you.
So another little fun fact, and I'm probably butchering the statistic a bit, but the average grocery store only has enough food to supply about 1/8 of the community with food for a day. Like, people like you, Levi, was saying, oh, I'll just go to the grocery store and buy some. Well, what happens when you think that, and your neighbor thinks that, and your neighbor's neighbor thinks that, and your entire neighborhood thinks that, and the next neighborhood over thinks that, and the next neighborhood over thinks that, and they all decide, I'm going to go buy food. And then you have 600 people going to the grocery store that only has 300 cans. What fucking then? Like, like you're saying, it's a fucking anomaly. It's not normal.
Like I said,
Turns to survival of the fittest.
yeah, like I said, you were too late. Dude got fucking killed at a Sam's Club.
What?
Yeah. Like
They-
fucking
two guys
stabbed in
were
the fucking
fighting
head.
over food. Dude,
Oh, I didn't
buddy,
even hear about that.
it happened just the other day at the Sam's Club near the store. These two dudes were fighting over some fucking, it was a case of water. And, buddy grabs a wine bottle off the rack, breaks it over this dude's head, and then stabs him to death with it.
So, the term is.
I like the fighting spirit, though. Keep it up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was warrior mindset.
I want that guy on my team.
The saying is, society is only 3 meals away from collapse.
Yep.
These people are still well fed. These people haven't had to have a meal
They're not hungry
that they're
yet.
missed.
Their kids aren't
They
hungry yet.
haven't seen hunger. They haven't seen starvation. They have not seen their kids look at them with beady, sad fucking eyes and ask them, Daddy, where's the food? I'm hungry. They have not had to deal with that. And if people are stabbing each other in the fucking head over a case of water and they haven't missed a meal yet, imagine where this is going to go if you are not prepared.
You gonna die?
Absolutely.
The Ballad of Hollis Brown.
Yeah. It's a great song. I'm not going to break the song down for you. Look it up. It is easier for parents to kill their starving kids than it is for them to see them go without food for a long period of time.
And just to like add some context, to the playing field, right? If shit was to hit the fan because of the coronavirus and whatever, right? I mean, in kind of going back to the poor starving kids, migrants, all that shit we talked about earlier, right? Those societies, they're some of them are not even post-industrious societies, right? There are many countries out there that are heavily agricultural based, right? And those guys are having a hard time on a regular fucking basis, right? We live in like a post industrial society. We live in it's like a technocracy going on, right? It's I bet I could pull 1,000 people from just anywhere and ask them if they even know how to plant a fucking flower bed, right? And they'd all, yeah, I'll give it a shot, and it would all die. Everything would die. They'd all
You might get 10 that can do it.
yeah, no one, and it's, I'm not like pointing a finger or like, blame, oh, this is one of the, the problems with society today. It's, because we're not all a bunch of fucking poor, toothless farmers. It's not that. It's, this is just the reality. We live in, in a high-tech kind of world, right? We're very far, very, very far away from, our roots of where we had once been for, the majority of, human existence. So think of that, right? It's not like you can just, in an emergency run to Farmer Joe, your neighbor, right? Which you probably don't even live near a farm. You probably don't even, you can point on a county map where any farms are where you live, and go, hey man, shit's hitting the fan, I ran out of food, can you help me out? He's gonna gut you with a fucking 12 gauge. He's gonna canoe your face in, okay? Because that's his fucking food, first of all, right? So, keep that in mind, you don't just live in a world where you can turn around, most people can just turn around to their backyard and go, I'm good, I've been developing this garden, this large garden that can help, hold me over, until, FEMA starts sending more people to camps and there's more food.
Get me started on the mass graves next to the railways.
Yeah, exactly. So like just a concept to keep in mind. If your plan B hasn't been prepping, you don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
You can't turn
Probably
around
don't
to your
have a plan
garden.
A.
Yeah. There's no plan to begin with, and I'm sure that, for a lot of people in modern America, especially in, urban areas, the closest farm, where you could even, hope to find some safe haven in a food shortage or something, is far away enough that your car would run out of gas or your Tesla would run out of, juice or whatever. So.
What happened to your Tesla? I used it to charge my vape and it's dead.
So
Modernity has failed me.
I'm going to wrap this up fairly harshly because there's no way for people to
get through their fucking heads without being harsh. It is not your responsibility to be prepared. It is not your prerogative to be prepared. You are ordered by biology to survive anything and everything that comes your way. Your genes, your ideology, your religious understanding, your religious beliefs, your humanity demands that you be prepared to pass your genetics along. And if you cannot survive long enough to pass your gene code along, then you deserve for your gene pool to die out and your name to be erased from history. Because you were not strong enough to survive the harshest or the semi-harshest, like we're dealing with right now, which isn't even semi-hard. We're dealing with basic, easy bullshit going out of stock. It is demanded by you, by your humanity or your personal belief system, to be able to survive long enough to not only pass along your gene pool, but to create a better world for the people who are going to come past you. So, if you fail that, it is completely on you. You are a fuck up. You did not plan, prepare, or take the actions necessary to pass your gene pool along long enough for your name to be etched on the gravestone of history.
Yeah, we're calling you out, furries.
Y'all are next. You just don't know it.
The end is nigh.
We
And I'm
said
not saying
no
nay, I
genocide.
said nigh.
We said no genocide, but we may make an exception.
It's not genocide, it's just,
Hunting.
hunting.
So, with that in mind, we're going to wrap this up. With that in mind, if you aren't prepared now, please do your fucking best. Think outside the box. Look at people's forums from third world countries, because people have been dealing with this a lot longer than you have or probably ever will. Do your best, think outside the box, be prepared. Your responsibility to preserve your gene pool rests on your critical thinking and your preparedness levels. So, with that in mind, any final words?
I think this has got to end here.
Alright. So, remember, anything the federal government is forcing you to do is probably wrong. And it's going to destroy your liberty, so please don't go into camps. Because that's never been a good thing.
Guess I'll die now.
Push the fight, pray for freedom. This is the Refounding Fathers signing out.